This clip for today comes from the Ghost subreddit. The uploader says that his coworker caught the following footage on a security camera on the side of his house in Tampa, Florida. What seems like normal footage of the outside of a home on a rainy afternoon suddenly takes a mysterious turn. What appears to be a white, translucent figure materializes at the far end of the garden, before quickly moving out of view. The uploader and their coworker were left, quote, speechless after seeing this footage, and commenters on the Ghost subreddit were quick to share their views on whatever this is. User Part 5 Guardian stated, "Whatever it is, looks like it grabbed his parrot." Some commenters even believe that perhaps a combination of the bird and rain created the spooky effect. What do you think this is? Let me know down below. Despite having the account for 5 years, a Reddit user that goes by CJ has only ever made one post on Reddit, but his post can be found on the Caught on Ring subreddit, where users posted funny, creepy, or downright weird things they've caught on Ring doorbells. Well, late one night, a motion notification caught CJ's attention, but when he reviewed the footage, he was left utterly startled. A bright glowing figure can be seen moving in the background, and according to CJ, there's a lake where this humanoid figure appeared. So whatever this thing is, it's either floating or hovering above the lake and illuminating the water below. This bizarre anomaly lingered in place for a short while, until eventually going dark and disappearing. If you have no idea what this is, then you're not alone, because neither do I. The Reddit username Miguel worked as a janitor at a security building in Phoenix, Arizona. While at work, he had several different experiences with strange things happening around him. One day while cleaning the bathroom, he heard several stall doors slammed shut, when he was the only person in the room. And he often sensed what can only be described as a dark presence lingering nearby. Recently, while working late at night, one of his coworkers was too afraid to go on a certain floor of the building alone, so Miguel agreed to go with her. But when they made it to the 7th floor, a loud banging caught their attention. Realizing it was the doors slamming shut, Miguel quickly pulled out his phone to record, and this is what he caught.
Did you see it?
He stood incredibly still as he filmed down the long hallway, when suddenly a dark shadow appeared. This shadowy figure stepped into view, but seemed to stop and turn around at the exact moment that Miguel reacted. The sight of this transparent mess made him jump and suddenly emerge from around the corner. Miguel and his coworker were left shaken up, as they were the only two people on that floor. Which leads us to the question, who or what did he catch on camera? Over the last few years, a bone-chilling haunt has taken over the home of a man named Diego. It's often when he's alone that this paranormal activity seems to strike, and when it does, he tries his best to catch it on camera to then post on TikTok. The entity in his home often appears to him as a child, but Diego has a hunch that it's something far more malevolent. The sound of a child giggling caught Diego's attention, and he was shocked to find what appeared to be a small child peeking out from behind a cabinet. He cautiously stepped closer, but as the pale child ducked behind the cabinet, it somehow disappeared completely. Sometime later in the very early morning, Diego was woken up by the sound of someone aggressively banging on his door. His first thought was that someone was trying to break in, but he couldn't resist opening the door to find out who or what was on the other side.
¿Quién?
Diego quickly flung the door open to reveal no one on the other side. But when he turned the corner, the faint small child ran across the room. This tiny figure ran to the dark corner under the stairs. But Diego ran to get a better look. The eerie child was once again nowhere to be found. After dealing with these terrifying events for some time, it began to take its toll on Diego. He decided to stay somewhere else to finally get some peace. But his worst nightmare came true as the sinister entity seemed to follow him.
Algo está sonando en el cuarto. Creo que es la
After hearing noises under his bed, he went to investigate. But as he bent over to take a look underneath, the chilling sight of a child's legs were on the other side. With his tiny pair of legs, he really walked towards the left. But as Diego stood up to get a good look at this figure, there was absolutely no one else inside the room. On a YouTube channel called Ghost Tech Paranormal, they began investigating themselves and had to investigate, and spotted showing activity in a home that was definitely haunted. A man named Kevin Butcher was born in June of 1941. He was an only child with two loving parents, who ended up buying in this house in the late 1960s. Kevin eventually married a woman named Barbara, but things soon went sour as she ended up leaving him and taking all his money. This left Kevin at a very dark place, as his heartbreak caused him to fall into a deep depression. From this point on, he was rarely seen by family and friends. And in 2013, he was unfortunately found dead in his house by neighbors. A couple named Jackie and Clive currently live in this house, and since they moved in, the unsettling things they've experienced have left them shaken and speechless. According to this couple, an intense feeling of unease seems to linger in every room. Jackie and Clive have heard footsteps walking up and down the stairs, and Clive is often woken up by the overwhelming presence of something dark in the room, leaving him too frightened to move, as he doesn't want to let it know that he's aware of its presence. With static cameras set up throughout the house, Jessica Phelps began their investigation.
Can you tell us why you stopped us from coming the first time? Quite a few people hurt themselves. Can you tell us why you did that?
movement behind me coming from the kitchen.
Yeah, I heard that.
As Phil and I are on the ground floor hallway, we hear movement come from behind us in the kitchen area. Here is the audio enhanced.
Movement behind me coming from the kitchen.
Yeah, I heard that.
Right off the bat, the sound of something moving was heard by both investigators. The two then made their way upstairs, where the eerie sounds continued.
Let me introduce myself. I'm Jeff. And the gentleman there holding that camera, I'm sure you've seen one of those before. That's Phil. Movement in that room.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
So now we've introduced ourselves and you've started to communicate with us. Can you draw the energy from somewhere so you can speak to us? I can hear you moving in front of me.
We both hear something moving inside the room where our motion detector activated, and it is captured on our audio.
Can you draw the energy from somewhere so you can speak to us? I can hear you moving in front of me.
A clear voice saying help is heard as I ask the spirit of Kevin to join us downstairs. Here is the audio taken from my digital recorder.
But don't be afraid of us or anything like that. Okay? But don't be afraid of us or anything like that. Okay?
This ghostly voice called out from within the static, saying, "Help." After heading back downstairs, Phil took over the EVP session, but what happened next is downright terrifying.
And you're going to need to try and communicate with us somehow, Kevin, because otherwise I'm just going to ask questions and I won't know whether I'm, communicating with you and you're happy, or whether I'm, annoying you, which I don't want to do.
Movement on the stairs.
Okay.
I hear movement coming from the stairs, and our static cam in the lounge, which is filming that area, has captured what we believe to be the best footage of a spirit forming and then moving into a solid wall. First, we will show the footage from our static cam in the lounge area. If you look at the top of the stairs, you will see a figure fall. We know that it's not contamination from the outside, as we have blacked out every window in the house. Watch as it slowly appears here behind the struts of the staircase. The figure is black and solid, and as I say to Phil that there is movement on the stairs, you can see my IR lights as I turn the camera towards that area. And as Phil and I make our way to the stairs, the figure then steps back into the wall and disappears.
The sound of movement on the stairs caught Jeff's attention, and later on when reviewing the footage from the static camera facing the stairs, they couldn't believe what they caught. A dark figure slowly manifested into view on the staircase. This terrifying figure stood incredibly still, not moving an inch for almost a minute. But as the guys headed that way, the light on Jeff's camera sent the apparition running. This dark silhouette quickly stepped back, going completely out of view. If we enhance the footage, we're left with no doubt that someone or something was standing on those stairs. But with Jeff and Phil being the only two people in that house, how exactly can this be explained? As the night went on, several other EVPs were caught, and strange sounds continued to echo throughout the house. But one Jeff had soon experienced would set them reeling back in fear.
At this point in the investigation, we decide to take a break, which we have done on several occasions throughout the night. The light switch to turn on the kitchen light is behind an unused door in the hallway. The door opens only about 6 inches, so the switch can be reached. On the other side of the door is a cupboard, which stops the door from opening fully. As I open the door to reach the switch, I see and touch a hand which is covering the switch. It is solid and pale grey in colour. As I touch it and see it at the same time, I jerk backwards, pulling my arm and shoulder.
What? What was it? What happened? You okay? Go on. You alright?
Yeah, I'm alright.
What happened?
Fucking hand on the door.
You saw a hand on the door?
No.
Of the other side?
I fucking hurt my arm as well. I yanked my arm. I pulled my arm right back. It scared me for a second. I reached for the light switch
Yeah.
and there was already a hand there. There was a fucking hand there.
As Jeff reached for the light, a pale gray hand was already on the switch. He claims to have not only seen, but also touched this ghostly hand. Unfortunately, this hand wasn't caught on camera, but from his reaction, what he saw seemed all too real.